Hi everyone, I'm just doing a quick rundown of the characters and the trial scenes and the trial chapters of To Kill a Mockingbird. I've been using Screencast-O-Matic. This looks a little different. As soon as I updated Windows, Screencast-O-Matic stopped working, so lesson learned, I shouldn't update. Anyways, so I just want to give you guys a quick tour of the characters that you will see in the trial scenes, or some of the characters, just so that you have a better sense of what's going on and who's dealing with what. So this is just about the characters themselves. I'm not actually talking about the questions, what's being said, what's being found out, what Atticus is proving or not disproving, or what have you. So, but I think it's easy if you understand the characters a little bit better. So the first character, I'm going to go through the main witnesses, and the character that is kind of the star of the show is Tom Robinson. Poor Tom Robinson. He is being accused of raping Mayella Ewell, and Atticus is defending Tom Robinson. The main thing to note is that Tom Robinson is black. Sorry, my kid is helping, also wants to be the star of the show. So Tom Robinson is black, and he's being accused of raping a white woman. And you would think that wouldn't be important, but actually it's very important. Remember, this is in Alabama, in the South, in the 1930s. During this time period, a black man does not want to be accused of anything really, but especially of assaulting a white woman. That was something that a lot of black men have been killed, innocent or guilty. They have been killed for being accused of that crime. So Tom Robinson is on trial really for his life, because if he's found guilty, then the punishment and the law in the 1930s in Alabama would have been death. They would have executed him. So he's being accused of raping a white woman, and his lawyer is Atticus Finch. So you guys know Atticus, but we will talk about him. All right. So I should be able to skip to the next one. Of course, it probably won't let me. Where's the next? Everything is just not working. Right, next. Okay, the next person is Mayella Ewell, and I chose this picture. Here's Mayella right here. I chose this picture. I didn't choose like a head shot of her or a close-up because I wanted you to see how vulnerable she is. So this is Atticus asking her questions. He wants to prove that what she's saying about his client, Tom Robinson, is wrong. And this is Judge Taylor. This picture to me shows how vulnerable she is. She is accusing Tom Robinson of raping her. And Atticus is trying to defend Tom Robinson from that accusation. In Scout's eyes, she would be seen as, the person who's opposing Atticus, obviously because she's accusing the person that he is defending. But what I want you guys to know, I want you to remember her background as you're reading these chapters. These chapters will talk about this, and we'll go over these these details for you. But please do keep it in mind. Even though as readers we don't want to believe what she's saying about Tom Robinson, we want Tom Robinson to be the good guy, and we want Atticus obviously to be defending the good guy here. We still need to feel pity and feel bad for her. So she's in the book, she's terrified, and I know I said I wouldn't talk about the trial scene, but I am. She's terrified of Atticus. She's terrified of being on the stand. And remember her family. She's Bob Ewell's daughter, oldest daughter. You've met one of her brothers that she has to tolerate. She's got lots of younger siblings. She kind of looks after them, and they live in the town dump. So she's very, very poor. I said you met one of her brothers. You've met Barris Ewell, in an earlier chapter when when Scout first goes to school, her first day, Barris is there, and he just shows up the first day of the school year, and he never shows up again for the rest of the year. He was the one who yelled at the teacher and made her cry. I won't repeat what he said. That's what Mayella has dealing with when we're talking about her little siblings. She's got 7 of them. So she is a victim. She's a victim of poverty. She, even though we may think that she is accusing the wrong person, she is a victim of assault. I am sure of it. So even though she's not on our side necessarily, I do feel very bad for Mayella. And I already told you that that was Judge Taylor. All right, so Judge Taylor, and we saw him in the other one. This is a really grainy photo. So let's talk about the judge really quickly. He is a competent judge. He's a little lax on his rules. I guess he's chewing tobacco or chewing on a cigar, sorry, throughout the trial. He seems to be that he's sleeping, but Scout knows better. Even though he looks like he's sleeping, he's really paying attention. Yeah, just very casual guy for a judge. So he appointed Atticus to be Tom Robinson's defender, Tom Robinson's lawyer, because Tom Robinson couldn't afford his own lawyer, so get a court-appointed one. I just want to say, generally speaking, about Judge Taylor, he's supposed to be unbiased, but I'm going to say this in my estimation, and details that you will learn about Judge Taylor later in the book, other comments that other characters will make. Even though he's supposed to be unbiased, I think that he is Team Atticus here. I don't think he wants the wrong man to go to jail for this crime. And that he's got, the justice system is stacked up against the wrong man. The justice system is stacked up against Tom Robinson. And I think Judge Taylor would rather see the right person go to jail rather than the wrong person. So even though he's a judge and, you know, he doesn't get to decide, by the way, whether or not Tom Robinson is guilty or innocent. That would be the jury's responsibility. Let's talk about the lawyers. So first lawyer here is Mr. Gilmer, and that's Mr. Gilmer right here. This is Tom Robinson. I call him T-Rob. Probably shouldn't do that. So Mr. Gilmer is the prosecutor, and he wants to prove Tom Robinson to be guilty. So he works to Mr. Gilmer works for the state. One thing you should know, and in the trial scenes that I told you I wasn't going to talk about, Scout does say that she, even though she is the daughter of Mr. Gilmer's opposition, Scout is Atticus's daughter, and Atticus and Mr. Gilmer are on opposite sides. Scout doesn't really hate Mr. Gilmer. She doesn't think he's the bad guy. She knows that he's just there to do his job, and his job is to prove whoever they've put on trial as guilty. So Mr. Gilmer wants Tom Robinson to be found guilty. Mr. Gilmer is the one who calls most of the witnesses in this trial. He's going to call Hecate as his own witness. He's going to call Mayella. He's going to call Bob Buell. And all of these people he is trying to get to say, Tom Robinson raped Mayella Ewell. Okay. Here he is interrogating Tom Robinson for the, and this would be at the end of the trial, because Atticus only calls one witness, and he calls his own defendant as his witness, Tom Robinson. Okay. All right, let's see if I can go to the next one. It really does not like me. Every time. Okay, here's Hecate. I chose this picture because he looks like a sheriff in this picture. And in the trial scene, he wouldn't actually be wearing a Stetson, this hat. But I wanted you to remember, or he probably wouldn't be. That looks like he's loading a gun there. I don't know. But I wanted you to remember that Hecate is a sheriff. He is friends with Atticus. You should remember that. We see him in an earlier chapter when they have to shoot the rabid dog. Atticus actually drives into the neighborhood with Hecate. And Hecate doesn't want to shoot the dog because he's not as good a shot as Atticus Finch is. So Hecate is friends with Atticus, but Hecate is also testifying against Atticus's defendant. Hecate would have been the one who was called when Mayella was raped, and he would have gone to the scene and he would have arrested Tom Robinson. He actually did arrest Tom Robinson. So he is kind of on the side of, of the prosecution of Mr. Gilmer, because he's been called as Mr. Gilmer's witness. Hecate, though, you should know, wants justice. He's going to tell the truth. The truth is that he was called to arrest Tom Robinson, and he showed up and he did. So anyways, I won't say too much about what Hecate testifies and what he says, but what he does say about the trial is really important, about what happened. This is Bob Ewell, another witness for Mr. Gilmer. Bob Ewell is a bad person all around. He's going to be rude at the trial. He's going to say a lot of awful, derogatory words. But that's not even the worst of it. Even if you forgave him for all of those bad things, he would still be a dark person, a very bad person. He is, remember, just to remind you again, he's the head of the Ewell clan. He is the father to all of the Ewell kids. Mayella and Burris are the ones that we know. Atticus tells us at the beginning of the book that he drinks up their welfare check and he doesn't provide food for his kids with the money that he is given. He drinks it away instead. So he poaches, to try to feed them. And they don't get him in trouble for that because even though he's doing the wrong thing, the town doesn't want to, or the county doesn't want to starve the children. There are also some other bad things that this book all but comes out and directly says about Bob Ewell. There are some implications about his relationship, the relationship between him and Mayella, and that makes him a very bad person. Atticus can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, but he can introduce doubt about what Bob Ewell says happened when Mayella was attacked and assaulted. So this is Bob Ewell. He's a bad guy. He testifies for the prosecution, but unlike Hecate, who testifies for prosecution, Bob Ewell really is a bad guy. I don't know why I can't skip forward as easily. It's been like 8 minutes trying to skip. I just hit forward. I wanted to show you Atticus, but I guess I don't have an Atticus. You guys know what Atticus looks like. There he is. Is the other lawyer. I shouldn't have to tell you much about him because we've been seeing him throughout this book. But he is going to try to defend Tom Robinson as best as he can. Okay. And so that is it. Those are just the characters that we're going to see, the major characters we're going to see during these trial chapters. Hopefully this video helps you to keep track of them.